Guys, so we're on to another day in the shop. It's a Saturday. Shay was here, my buddy Dave was here, Jason is still here actually working. Big shout out to those guys. We got a bunch of stuff moved around in the shop. I've got my toolbox back here now. We moved some stuff around. As you can see, we have the first gen in here, and the Shorty moved around under its own power for the first time. There will be a separate video talking about that. I don't know if it'll come out before this video or after, but anyways, you'll see it. If you haven't seen it, you will see it. The reason for this video is we are pulling the rear end out of the first gen to go into this truck. So this, we're going to build a new rear end for, as well as we do everything else that it needs, because we are going on a drag and drive this year with this truck. So we need to get stuff done, because before we know it, we will be going on the drag and drive. So I'm getting ready to pull it out. I've just got it up on jack stands right now. We are going to pull the wheels off and get everything unbolted so we can drop the baby out of there. And then you'll see it in a video with this when we clean it all up and paint it to put it into this truck. And then I will have separate videos, because we are actually going to shorten the rear end to put in this truck, so that, because this is a second gen rear end, you can see how the tires stick out, which doesn't really bother me. But when you put big tires on it, like bigger tires like those ones, they stick out like about that far, which is not so kosher for driving around on the street, for two reasons. One, because they stick out, and two, because the distance, right now I got it jacked up, but the distance between here and here, the tire actually touches there. Well, you can actually see it rubbing the paint off. See right here, it's rubbing the paint off. The slick is touching. So we don't want that to happen, so we are going to modify so it doesn't happen. So that's what we're doing right now. So I'm going to throw you in a time lapse, and I'm going to start taking the rear end out. All right, guys, so we got the rear end out of the truck. Pretty easy to take them out. Now, please do take in consideration, they're not usually that fast to come out. It took me maybe, from the time I had it on the jack stands to it out, maybe 45 minutes. And I didn't have to cut anything, all the bolts come out. But take in consideration, this truck does not get driven in the winter. And I also had the U-bolts and everything off like 4 months ago. If you guys remember, when we had, for you guys that watched the video, the center pin on the axle, this one was the wrong pin that somebody had put in there. So I had just had all this apart. For the most part, that's the reason it came apart so easy. So when the rear end goes back in this, I believe, unless something changes, we're going to be narrowing the axle 4 inches on each side. So a full 4 inches on each side, I believe. Not sure exactly, because so that was with these tires on that I did the measuring, and I'm not sure if I'm using these. I won't be using these rims, I don't think, so I have to figure out what I'm using for a rim. It's going to be an 8-bolt, but I got to figure out what I'm using for the brakes. So what I would like to do, if at all possible, is I'd like to put a 15-inch wheel on it. Be able to put a 15-inch wheel. I don't know if I'm going to use a 15-inch wheel, because there's lots of options for bigger tires with 15s. So I think that's what I would like to do. Just so that we have something that's a little bit nicer to, has a little more traction when you're on the street tire. Because if you're not on the street tire, or if you're on the street tire, this thing before had basically no traction. Now I think it's going to work even better. So, well, I shouldn't say it will work better. So, I don't know. We need more tire. So I got to get more tire under it. But, so you guys are on the same page as I am, this truck, we're putting the big engine in this truck. We're going to do Miles of Mayhem, which is a drag and drive event with this truck this year. That's the reason for doing this. Is next year, this truck won't be doing that job anymore. This truck will be, I'm going to say, decommissioned to a daily driver in the summertime, is my thought anyway. So this truck is in nice enough shape. I don't want to cut it up. And I know lots of people are like, oh, well, that's stupid. It's a nice truck, start with a nice truck. Yes, I understand. I just, for whatever reason, I don't want to cut this truck up, so I'm not going to. So we are going to use a different truck to build an all-out race truck in the next couple of years. This being more of a driver, you know, play on the weekend, maybe go to the racetrack once in a while. But I want to build a all-out, full caged, chassised race truck with a Cummins in it. So I just haven't decided what we're using for a body. Either I'm going to be using a first gen body, won't be this one, or using a 2018 and newer body, so that the way that the rules work with that 2018 and newer, we can run considerably faster. I don't know exactly, I can't remember exactly what the time. I think it's 9.5 seconds in the quarter with no cage. So then you put a cage in it, then you can go, you know, like as fast as you know, let's say 750s or something. And the chances of it going 750s with the power plant that I'm using is not very good. So just don't have enough power to do it is the problem. But then I know that I'm safer than I need to be, and it's something different. Like I have, obviously have the first gen, we have this truck, second gen, I have my 95, which we are gonna be rebodying and redoing in the next couple of years too. So there's that, another second gen. I don't have a third gen. I don't think I'm gonna have a third gen, maybe one day. And then we'll have a fourth gen. So it's just something different. But the fourth gen will be running that P-Pump 6.7, what we're building for this truck. So it's still gonna be mechanical, it'll just be, you know, dressed up as a newer truck. So anyways, that'll be it for this video. Just to give you guys a heads up of what's going on. We got that rear end out. The next time I will be doing a video on putting the rear end in this. So it'll be buffing it, changing the brakes, getting all the stuff cleaned off that we have to get cleaned off, and putting it in the truck, swapping around, get the brakes hooked up and all that jazz. And then we will be doing a bunch of videos on the first gen. So there is more videos coming of the second gen, because obviously it's in a different state than the last time you guys seen it in a video. I do have a couple videos that I'm working on to finish editing and all that jazz. So there'll be some videos coming on that, some videos coming on the first gen. We still have to build the motor for the first gen. We still have Shay's truck. We got all kinds of stuff to do. We got lots of stuff. All right, guys, today we are working on the first gen, or a little bit anyway. So this is the rear end I'm putting in there. Don't mind the drums, because we're taking those drums off. We're just leaving them on there just so it's easier for us to move around right now. So we're going to be converting it to a disc brake setup. I will go over that in a separate video for you guys that are interested in that, because I know that you guys are going to ask. So, but I will go through that in a completely separate video. You'll see me do it in the videos to come for this, but I'll do it in a separate video. This is just a Dana 70 out of a, I think it's a 95 Dodge pickup with Cummins in it. It's got a 354 gear with a limited slip. Eventually it'll probably get an actual pause unit, but the limited slip will do us just fine for now. So we are going to take this and put it in there. So I do like working on the rear end, so we might as well get after it. All right, guys, so we checked a few things out. I'll go over that in a minute. But we're gonna pull this backing plate off and the hub off. So we've already pulled the axle out. For you guys that have never done that, just take your impact gun or a wrench, pull all your bolts out. The easiest way to get these to separate is just take a hammer and whack the end of the axle and it'll separate. Sometimes you got to give her a good drive, but usually they come out relatively easy. And there's a big nut. You got to take this little clip out and then take this nut off. This will pull off. Then the backing plate is just bolted on. We'll pull that off. As soon as we get All right, guys, so you've seen us monkeying around with the diff. Got a bunch of stuff apart. We got the hubs all off, the backing plates all off, the brakes all off, all that stuff. There was a little bit of rust in it. So I guess, yeah, if you're buying a used diff, make sure there's no rust in it before you buy it. This was a diff I had in my diff pile, so I have nobody to blame but myself. So, yeah, it is what it is. Luke's here too, by the way. He was just shaking his head yes at me. So I pulled the posi apart. I will talk about rebuilding this when we go into it, with the limited slip, and it's hammered. Like all the clutches are wore out, all that jazz. The side plates, the side thrust plates are all wore out. So I'm going to buy a rebuild kit for this, so I'll do a separate video on this. The rear diff, nothing's really damaged from the rust. It's just a light rust. So we're going to get everything cleaned up. Here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you can see the rust on the ring gear there, or on the outside of the ring gear. The ring gear itself didn't rust, so that's good. The pinion isn't rusted, so we're going to have to pull it apart, rebearing. So we are going to, basically, just to give you guys an idea of what we got going on here, is we're going to shorten this. We're going to shorten this section 5 inches. So this is going to be 5 inches farther in. Doing that basically is what that's going to do for us is bring all of everything in. So we're going to have to mini tub this, which originally I wasn't going to do that, but we're going to do that. So I got to get some wheel tubs. I'm hoping to maybe get new ones. If I can't get new ones, I'll have to get used ones, but I'll have to source them because I don't have any. So I'll have to figure that out. And I'm running 2 different sets of wheels. So the street wheels are a 15 by 10 with a 2.5 inch back spacing because that was what I could get cheap for a wheel. And these ones, the ones that have the slicks on it, are a 16 by 10 with a 4.5 inch back spacing. But I believe that they'll work. We did some measurements and I believe that that'll all work out for us for this year. Next year we'll do something different, but I'm pretty sure it'll be a different truck next year. So that is what we got on the go for what we were doing today anyway. So I didn't film any of this or taking this apart because I didn't realize that the camera was dead. So like I said, I will do a separate video on rebuilding this. We will do a separate rebuild. I will do a video on rebuilding the rear diff. The diff will be out when we do that, so it'll be way better for you guys to be able to see because when I narrow it, when we go to weld it all back up, I'll just pull it out. It's just way easier to do. So I'll do a complete separate video for rebuilding the limited slip and rebuilding the diff itself. Well, I'm going to rebearing it. I'm not going to rebuild it, but I'll explain how to rebuild it if you're putting gears and all that stuff in. So that'll be it for this one. Just a little bit of content on the old first gen. And like, subscribe, hit me down in the comments, and remember, it's not rocket science.